It was a casual Tuesday afternoon on a sunny April day when the first one happened. I was laughing with a friend, drinking an iced coffee and nonchalantly deciding to order another one. Later that evening, I took out a textbook and a notepad to make notes. And then it happened. This fear, this dread, this confusion. My heart was pumping faster than a steam train. After medical tests and seeing a doctor at the hospital, it was then when I knew that I had an actual panic attack.
There was a day where it was the night before a test and I was studying nonstop. I was drinking so much coffee, and then all of a sudden my first panic attack happened. I literally thought that I was dying. It makes you feel that you're having a heart attack, that all of your organs in your body are stopping, and the whole time you're just in fear of your life and you feel that you need to run to a hospital, you need to go somewhere. And for like the first half an hour, that was where it felt the worst. And then after that, I'd just lay in bed, still my heart pounding, still thinking what on earth is happening to me. I'm not dying, but there seems to be something wrong. I must have like gotten something, like some illness. And then a friend of mine took me to the hospital, did all the checks, and the doctor was like, this was just a panic attack. It wasn't something life-threatening. So I suffer from panic disorder and depression. After going to 4 doctors and seeing a psychiatrist, I was diagnosed with panic disorder. And then when I was also 15 years old, I was diagnosed with depression back then as well.
Lexamil, which is an antidepressant, and it also helps with anxiety as well, which helps a lot as well for panic disorders.
I've always hated the fact that with masculinity, people try to make out that you aren't supposed to express yourself. You aren't supposed to have those proper emotions. You need to man up.
We have 2 3-year-olds. One is a girl, one is a boy, and they're both running and they fall down and the knee's bleeding. We used to say to the girl, everybody fast, oh, what's happening and so on. But with a boy, they would have said, stop crying, we don't do that, males don't show it. But I think we're now into the space where people say it's okay. So when the boy now falls, the empathy is there, and it's okay to show that emotion.
Because I think that is the big issue in our society today, is that most men are affected by many mental health issues. And because they don't speak out about it, it consumes them, and it ends up with high suicide rates, high depression rates, and low productivity amongst many men around the world.
I think there's still this whole kind of thing that the man shouldn't, and the man must, control the emotions and take care of others, and therefore they shouldn't show it. So you still have that, and there's still that kind of processes that when one has to break down in the therapeutic space. But I think when we get through that, and they understand that I can still be a strong person even if I show emotion, then it becomes easier.
Throughout my life, I've been a very high-strung, stressed person because chronic stress runs throughout my family. My parents obviously were going through a divorce, so there were times where I had to act like a parent around the age of 12. There were a lot of instances where I felt like I had to take care of myself and my sister a lot, and I think that added on to the depression.
If we can prevent people who die as a result of a fatal and terminal depression by raising awareness and building public education around the typical symptoms of mental ill health, we need to do that. If a tragedy occurs in one's life, you've got to make something positive out of a negative. So if you are affected in a way that we were affected as a family, where we lost everything we had. If you lose a child, a mother and father's whole life is destroyed.
From a school level, we are lacking considerably in South Africa. There was never this active promotion of, if you're battling, go see the school counselor.
What we often do is we try to normalize mental health and also wellness. So I think it's crucial that we start speaking about it in families. So at home, in society, at church, in friend groups, at school, it is definitely needed that we start speaking and normalizing it. Often people would not be willing to speak up because they think they would be the odd one, or they think that people would stereotype them. So we need to make it normal so that people feel comfortable. I think schools need to open their eyes to what the reality is of mental health and start addressing it. So I don't think it's 20 years back where we could say that it's your problem and you must deal with it on your own.
We need to have more active mental health awareness campaigns within schools. Have sessions with the teachers, ensure that the teachers are taking mental health seriously, because I also found, this didn't necessarily happen to me, but I found with one or two teachers, they would kind of scoff at the idea of someone being off sick because of a mental illness.
We see a lot of times that adolescents get to a stage where they don't know how to control anger, or where they don't know how to control their impulses, or a variety of emotions, but most likely it is because they were never exposed to someone teaching them from a young age.
I get so many referrals saying, this man is struggling with anger issues, need anger management. But most of the time I think anger is a mask for sadness anyway. So females will show the sadness, where males will show the anger, and if I see the anger, I know there's sadness there.
So that's why, especially in adolescence, it's important that we educate them and we give them opportunities to speak about mental health.
Recently, the main man that has been speaking more about mental health has actually been my father, which I actually was quite surprised about. When I finally told him this is what I'm going through and such, he opened up to me saying, I also went through a lot of anxiety problems when I was younger. I think most of the time when I'm on social media or I'm reading the news or I'm watching TV, it's mainly women speaking about mental health. You don't necessarily have a man figure out there who is a proper advocate towards mental health.
There's the wonderful role model of a rugby player, John Kerwin. He was the captain of the New Zealand rugby team, and he suffered from depression. But of course, rugby is a macho sport, so no one suffers from depression. And then one day he realized something terrible is going to happen if he's not going to do something. And he went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said to him, "What would you do if you had a hamstring injury?" And he said, "I'd go to a physiotherapist and I'd get some medication and I'd rest it." And the psychiatrist said, "Well, then treat me as your physiotherapist for the most important organ in your body, and that's your brain." We need someone like that in our country, for instance, to break that macho silence, to break that macho stigma, because we know from statistics that more men die of a fatal terminal depression than women.
We need to start opening the conversation to men as well now. And I think we need to start encouraging men who can be role models, who can be influencers, to also play a big role in helping out. So a lot of the time people come across asking you, but how can you be depressed? You're able to do X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, the actual reality is that someone can be depressed and still function normally like other people. I'd like to say to those men out there and to all individuals out there that you're not alone. That is the first and foremost thing that I'd like to say, because a lot of the time when you're going through the most, when you're dealing with your mental illness or any type of emotion, there are often those thoughts that are put into your head that you're alone and you're the only person fighting this, but you really aren't. There are people around you who do care about you, who love you and who want to support you. So be the first person to break that barrier in your circle. Be that person who wants to sit down with your friends, with acquaintances, or with other leaders or whoever in your space and just start talking. Opening up dialogue is so important, especially for men out there. We all go through the most every single day and in our lives, and if we don't start conversations and if we don't start working towards breaking down the stigma of mental health, especially towards men.
We need to break the silence, we need to break the stigma. We should treat mental health as foundational to all health, because without mental health there is no health. There's nothing wrong with you, it's not a weakness, it's an illness.
Even if you live in the nice house, have a great group of friends, supportive family, you can still suffer from mental illness.
Often people, and the society thinks that teenage boys, they don't have problems and they can man it up, and that you're not allowed to cry, you're a sissy if you show emotion, and that's absolutely not true.
I think we much more balanced man if you can share your emotions as well. If we say I'm a strong person, it means that I can show emotion as well, and I can acknowledge when I'm vulnerable. Then it means actually that I'm strong because I know who I am. And so to all males, go talk to someone.
My advice to my fellow men is that you are not alone. There are people who love you, who truly care for you, and are there for you. It is okay to cry, and it is okay to express your feelings. It is definitely okay to ask for help. You can be the change in your group of friends and circle by speaking out first, by expressing your emotions, and bringing the positive change that is definitely needed.
My name is Franjo Haupt.
I'm Jan Brink.
I'm Matthew Bass.
My name is Tendani.
I'm Neil.
Lincoln Rensburg.
I'm Sean Richardson.
I'm Alex Dickey.
I'm my name is Zachary McCauley.
I'm Jeremy Garnden.
I suffer from anxiety.
I suffer from depression and social anxiety.
I struggle with depression.
I suffer from depression.
I suffer from depression.
I suffer from depression and anxiety.
I suffer from anxiety.
I suffer with anxiety.
I suffer from anxiety disorder.
I live with anxiety.
Speak up.
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 Speak up.